It's Morbin time! The third DLC for Marvel's Midnight Suns has launched with the living vampire Morbius joining the roster. I finished this new story content where you use this charm to get the upper hand in battle, brings a second set of powers for your other characters, unlocks extra Abby upgrades, and much more. Thanks to 2K for sponsoring this video, totally check the game and the DLC out via the link in the description, a like would really support the channel, and let's go. Just like with the previous Deadpool DLC, you need to have finished at least the third main mission of the main story of Midnight Suns, called Spider-Man's, to unlock the 3 new DLC story quests with Morbius. Finish the first one and Morbius is unlocked for your team and also available in a lot of main game content. While you can get the Morbius DLC separately, the story is a continuation of the first 2 Season Pass expansions, so I definitely recommend playing the Deadpool and Venom DLCs first. The story of the third DLC starts with Blade and Spider-Man, who are still tracking down evil vampires roaming the streets of New York City, and Spidey might know someone who could help them with that. As if we didn't have enough vampires already, with Morbius we add another pawn to the board, although it seems he is on our side of the conflict. For now. Him having a history with and doing research on vampires, he's the perfect guy to help them out. And don't expect anything like the recent Morbius movie, which was of course memed, or should I say morbed to death, but a more serious take on his backstory from the comics, which made even me interested in finding out what's next. I was really surprised to see Spider-Man again in this content, and his personality is a nice contrast to Blade and Morbius, who obviously have a vendetta against each other.
You're going nowhere.
Don't have a hissy fit. It was right in front of me.
I mean, let's face it, we never get enough of Yuri Lowenthal, right? Although getting a little backstory from Morbius and Blade also made me curious, since I had little knowledge of that from the start. They also work really well together in combat using their skills and abilities, but more on that later. When you unlock Morbius, he starts with a matching vampire-like suit with these bat wings cut in half, and just like with the other characters, you can unlock a variety of color schemes almost immediately by opening chests in the Abbey area. You can easily do this after increasing your arcane knowledge level. Morbius's color palettes aren't as notable and striking as Venom's or Deadpool's, for example, but I do love the red and gray tones. The skin deep one, however, I rather avoid. With a name like that, I don't even want to know how he got his hands on this one. If you got the legendary edition of the game, you will also have access to his classic suit and the Midnight Suns suit with a gigantic cape. I do prefer the red-black color scheme for this one, since the belt buckles are golden here. Totally my favorite. And of course, we shouldn't forget about the special Midnight Suns legendary outfit, but for this you need to max out Morbius' friendship level at the Abbey, so make sure you give him a lot of compliments, do hangouts, and bring him to a haven after finding a location on the Abbey grounds. I figured out that his favorite activity is meditating. He also mentioned this one time while talking to him, so totally pick that option when it's available. By reaching friendship level 2, you unlock Morbius' passive combat ability called A Greater Hunger, which has everything to do with his unique bloodlust buff in combat. More on that and his other combat skills in a moment, because next to this, Dr. Morbius also brings new amazing features for the Midnight Suns. Morbius' research has led him to a new project to create a laboratory inside the forge of the Abbey. The project's called Bleeding Edge and can be unlocked by reaching research level 10 and playing at least 3 missions with Morbius. After unlocking it, you need a couple of credits to build the lab, and with this research facility you are able to purchase stat modifications for your Midnight Suns characters. These can vary from adding extra strength, critical hit chance, power, and much more. Each upgrade also has a downside, as each increased stat is paired with a decrease in a different stat, so you have to think about which hero you choose for each particular mod. One trick I figured out while playing is that if the stat that would receive a decrease is already 0 for one character, it won't have any side effects because you can't go into negative numbers. So you are able to strategically choose a hero with no drawbacks. And by upgrading the lab even further, you are able to purchase advanced secondary stat mods, which can contain legendary mods like this plus 50 fortitude that gives the character block at the start of combat. It does decrease another stat by an insane amount though, so again, be careful before choosing. You also have to wait at least 3 in-game days before you can add another mod to the same character. And if that wasn't enough, Morbius also comes with a new combat item called the Dread Mark, which unlocks after upgrading 2 of Morbius' abilities. By using it, it will apply the Marked status to all incoming reinforcements in combat for 2 turns. As a reminder, the Marked status lets you refund a skill or ability card when knocking an enemy out, which is the same effect as using a quick skill or ability, for example. This can give you a major advantage in battle, because the more enemies you knock out, the more cards you can play in one turn. But we shouldn't forget about Morbius' character himself, as he has some nice skills to use during combat as well. As always, you start with 4 and eventually unlock new skills by analyzing gamma coils at Tony Stark in the Forge. Morbius' way of fighting is comparable to Blade, although he doesn't use a blade but his claws to strike his enemies. These are also part of his basic attacks that can take quick care of foes. You can even upgrade one of his claw abilities at the Abbey to let you get health back on impact, which is pretty nice. He also has his Shadow Strike ability, which lets him damage up to 3 enemies in one go, and his Mist form, which lets him disappear into the shadows. He won't be seen by other enemies in the area, which is great if you want to figure out his next move without getting hit by something. His next attack even deals extra damage, so you can sneak upon an enemy and strike. The invisibility lasts for 1 turn though, so make it count. Because Morbius is a vampire, living vampire, his combat ability is all about adding the bleed status effect to your enemies. After playing 3 Morbius abilities, you are able to use the Bloodlust ability without using a card play. With this status, any ability or counter attack that deals damage will also apply bleeding to the target. Morbius will also gain a significant amount of block, which is a really nice extra. The bleed effect deals damage at the end of each turn, and the effect can stack, so the more points on an enemy, the more damage it does. And in combination with Morbius' Feeding Frenzy ability, he is able to consume all the bleed stacks on the target and deal the remaining damage of those stacks to finish it off. Works great on bigger enemies or even bosses where the extra amount of damage is really noticeable. And Morbius' passive ability, A Greater Hunger, decreases the required amount of played abilities to unlock Bloodlust, so I really recommend being friendly to Morbius and taking him on missions with you. The extra bleeding effect also works great in combination with Blade in your team. He's the only other character who can apply bleed to an enemy, so letting them team up will make them unstoppable in battle. But probably Morbius' best ability in combat is his Irresistible Charm. Yeah, Morbius can charm an enemy minion to let it attack another random enemy minion, which can be handy to finish off an enemy, but also to distract it from attacking one of your characters. The base version of this ability, depending on which enemy minion you choose, lets you do an average amount of damage, but the best part of this ability comes to life by upgrading it. When you do, you can even charm big bosses to attack their minions for you, which is a real game changer. One like the Dread Mother, for example, can easily take care of a normal minion, and all of its effects will apply as well. So make sure you get the upgrade for this ASAP to get advantage on the other side of battle. And just like all the other characters in Midnight Suns, Morbius has a legendary heroic ability which he unlocks after completing a special challenge when reaching his max friendship level. Undying Fury is a very powerful attack with the requirement that it only deals damage on an enemy with bleed, so make sure to apply that status effect before using it. With this Fur DLC, we are almost near the end of the season pass, and I definitely felt like they are working towards that wrap up with how this DLC ends. Compared to Deadpool and Venom, this one had much more lore, but it also fitted a lot better in my opinion, since the subject is literally in Morbius' blood. Either way, I'm looking forward to how this ends. Check out Midnight Suns via the special link in the video description, with a free trial now available on Xbox and PlayStation through PS Plus, where your progress will carry over to the full game. You can also check out the video on the Venom DLC by clicking on the screen. Subscribe for more Midnight Suns content, and like would really help us out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!